Today, it's time for everybody's favorite. It's the December voter registration shifts. And this is the last one for 2025, so let's get into it. This is not my own data, it's from Michael Pruser. You can find the link down below in the description. Now, we've got more than 20 states to get through, so we're going to go quick, but we're going to break the first one down here in detail. This is Pennsylvania, and in 24, Trump won the state by 1.7. And over here, we've got an active party registration in the state of more than 8.4 million. In some states, they report total party registration. Others, it's active, so keep that in mind. Different states have different requirements to stay an active voter. And here we've got front-end automatic voter registration. That means you're automatically registered to vote when you interact with the DMV. Some states have back-end, where you can't opt out until after the fact, and other states have no AVR at all. But here, the registration for the Republicans is more than 3.5 million. For the Dems, it's 3.57. Other or independents or unaffiliateds, they're at 1.3 million. Now, the changes from the last update in November are the Republicans gained at 2,400. The Dems gained more than that at 7,200. Other is up about 2K. The advantage between the two major parties is the Dems are up 63,000. If you compare that to back in 24, the Dems were up more than twice that at 131K. And if you go back through some recent elections, the Dem advantage was only way higher. It was 916K. That was back in 16. And in every video, I usually mention the same thing. One of those is legacy Democrats. Those would be voters technically registered as Democrats, but they've been voting for Republicans for a while and never bothered to update their registration. Usually that's more pronounced in the southern states and some of the Rust Belt, including Pennsylvania. To a lesser extent, in some places, there could be legacy Republicans as well. So that's what we've got for the first state. Always take this data somewhat with a grain of salt. Now let's rapid fire through the rest of these states. We're going to go in order for how competitive they were in 24. Next up, we've got the purple state of Nevada. Trump clinched this one with 3.1. Since November, it looks like we've got some voter roll cleanup here. Again, different states do it at different intervals, but we've got Republicans losing 4,400. Dems went down 5,400. Other is down 14K. And here the automatic voter registration is back end. But other or unaffiliated, they have more than both of the two major political parties. They're at 915K. But between the red and the blue team, Republicans have a small advantage here of 4,100. That's gone back and forth over the past year. Back in 24, Dems were up 7,100. And back in 16, they were up 88K. So a noticeable narrowing there over the past 8 years. Next, in North Carolina, Trump won it by 3.2. Looks like we've got more cleanup here. Republicans lost 6,700. Dems went down 16K. Other is down 8K. Republicans have an advantage here of 109,000. That's a lot higher than back in 24, where they were up 23K. And back in 16, it flipped. Dems had a healthy advantage of 646,000. And right there, that number emphasizes legacy Democrats and how voter registration data is far from everything. If this number back in 16 mattered a ton, then Democrats would have been winning that state overwhelmingly for every statewide office, but that didn't happen. Let's move on to New Jersey here. We've got Harris winning it by just 5.9. Republicans here gained 1,400, Dems almost 2,500, and other is up 5,800. Dems have a massive advantage here of 854K, but that is a little bit lower than in 24. They were at 905. Back in 16, it was a bit higher at 862. In New Mexico, Harris got it by an even 6%. Republicans gained almost 1,800. Dems were up over 1,300. But other is the big winner at a more than 7,700 gain. Dems have an advantage here of 131K. Back in 24, it was higher. It was 154. And back in 16, it was even higher, just under 200K. How about in Maine? This state doesn't update every month, but Harris won it by 6.9. And from the last update in March, Republicans lost 2,500, Dems lost 4,600, other is up 3,700. The Dems have an advantage here of 43,700. It's a little lower than in 24, where it was 46,800. And back in 16, it was a little higher than that. It was 53,200. Next up, we've got Colorado. Harris got it by just about 11%. Looks like a lot of cleanup here. Republicans lost 30,000. Dems lost 36,000. And other is even down 97,000. But in a state with back-end automatic voter registration, other dwarfs both of the two major political parties. But between them, Dems have an advantage of 90,500. Back in 24, the Dems were up 110K, and back in 16, they were up just 7,000. So that reflects how this state has gotten a lot bluer over the past decade. How about in Florida? Trump won it by 13.1. Republicans gained about 5K. Dems went down about 5,300. Other is up over 1,500. Republicans have a giant advantage here, over 1.4 million. That's way higher than back in 24, where it was 1.07 million. And back in 16, Dems had a big advantage of their own at 327K. So the trend here, pretty much the opposite of Colorado. Next state, Alaska. Trump won it also by 13.1. A sparsely populated state, Republicans lost 173. Dems just above that at 185, and other is up 803. And you'll notice here that other has way more than both of the two parties at 389,000. So in states like this, it makes it extra challenging to gauge how much one side has an advantage. But with the raw numbers, Republicans are up 73,800. It's a little higher than 72K back in 24, and back in 16, it was 65K. Next, in the Hawkeye state, Trump got it by 13.2. Republicans gained 1,300. Dems went up 900. Other is up 6.519. I think that's 6,500. And the advantage here is for the Republicans by a big 196,700. Back in 24, it was lower. It was 173. And back in 16, it was way lower at just 27,000. Next state, this one's been in the news lately. It's Rhode Island. Harris got it by 13.8. Republicans lost 630. Dems way more than that at 3,800. But other is up 4,100. And it's another state where independents vastly outnumber both of the two parties, especially the Republicans. But the Dems have an advantage here of 152,700. Back in 24, though, it was higher. It was 169. And back in 16, it was even higher at 237. Next, in Oregon, Harris captured it by 14.3. Republicans lost 1,400. Dems lost 5K. Other is down 1,800. Dems have a nice advantage here of 254K, but back in 24, it was 275. And back in 16, it was way lower. It was 118K. In Delaware, we've got Harris winning it by 14.7. Republicans lost 359. Dems lost 665. Other is up 1178. The Dem advantage is 132K. That's lower than in 24, where it was 145K. And back in 16, it was similar to what it was now at about 131K. Back to a red state, it's Kansas. Trump won this one by 16.1. Republicans gained a little bit, 305. Dems went up 123, but other is the big winner here at about 3K. GOP advantage here is 403K. That's up a bit from 391 back in 24, and back in 16, it was 357. Next in Nebraska, we've got Trump winning it by 20.5. Republicans lost 345, Dems similar at 334. Independents are up 421. Republican advantage here, 294K. Back in 24, it was 286, and back in 16, it was lower, it was 214. In Utah, Trump won it by 21.6. Republicans lost 660. Dems lost 980. Other is down 46. Republican advantage is massive at 677K. However, that is a little bit lower than in 24, where it was 689. And back in 16, it was way lower. It was 416K. This seems to be one of the few states where Dems usually have made some sort of a gain. This time they ended up losing more than the Republicans, but again, always take it somewhat with a grain of salt. Next, Louisiana, Trump got it by 22%. Republicans gained almost 1,200. Dems are down more than 2,200. Other is up 1,200. This is a red state, but Dems have the advantage here. It's 29,800. That is dwindling from 86,700 back in 24 and back in 16. Dems had a big advantage of 451K. This is a state where the registration advantage is poised to flip to the Republicans at some point in the near future. How about a super blue state? It's Maryland. Harris won it by 28.5. Republicans lost 305. Dems lost 442. Other is up 3,700. The Dem advantage here is way up there at 1.19 million. But that's a little bit lower than back in 24, where it was just over 1.2 million. And back in 16, the Dem advantage was 1.13 million. From a blue state to the red state of South Dakota, Trump got it by 29.2. Looks like more cleanup here. Republicans lost almost 1,500. Dems lost more than 1,200. It's about the same as what the independents lost. GOP advantage here is almost 178K. Back in 24, it was lower. It was 170K. And back in 16, it was less than half that at 81,000. In Kentucky, we've got Trump getting it by 30.5%. Republicans gained 2,400. Dems went down 1,900. Other is up 1,200. Republican advantage 215K. That's higher than in 24, where it was 150K. And back in 16, it flipped. Dems had a big advantage of 355K. Another one with a lot of legacy or ancestral Democrats. In the Souter State, Oklahoma, Trump got it by 34.3. Republicans gained 2159. Dems gained 457. Independents are up 2,800. Republican advantage is up there at 671K. That's higher than in 24, where it was 606, and back in 16 it was way lower, it was 127. In Idaho, Trump got it by 36.5. Republicans gained 1371, Dems gained 462, other gained 2200. Republican advantage 508K. In 24 it was lower, it was 496, and back in 16 it was way lower at 306. Finally, we've got West Virginia. It was a blowout here for Trump. He was up there at 41.9. Republicans gained 1168. Dems lost 467. Other is up 916. Republican advantage over 175K. Back in 24, it was lower at 144K. And back in 16, Dems had a similar advantage of their own at 172,000. Another state that's changed a ton over the past decade plus. And that's it. Those are all the states. And if your state is not included, that's most likely because that state doesn't report their registration data by party. But as we close it out here, most of this data, but not all of it, looks pretty good for the Republicans. However, voter registration data does not tell you who's going to vote for who and what the turnout's going to be. If it did, we can see here on West Virginia, back in 2016 and 20, Dems would have won that state, but that had nothing to do with it. Usually you want to look for a pattern where month after month something keeps heading in one direction or the other. Usually that turns out it's the Republicans making gains. But again, we've seen in special elections, Dems have clearly overperformed. So that doesn't have much of a reflection on this data. Now maybe it's different in the midterms or the next presidential election, but as far as bragging rights go in terms of raw numbers, it's the Republicans that have made so many gains across so many states since 24. Dems would love to say they've done the same, but as I just said, that doesn't necessarily translate into winning elections. So that's going to be it for this month and for this year. Hopefully you've enjoyed following all these trends over the past 12 months. So let me know in the comments, how much does this data matter to you? Is it great for the Republicans? Do you see where Dems have made a couple of gains? And how useful is this anyway with so many more independents? Let me know what you think down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.